But you know what I think the name of the game is?
What's that?
Scaling.
Hmm.
See,
Yep.
that's the word of the day is scale. Because it's one thing to go, all right, I'm closing one or two or three or four, like this
Yep.
activity I'm doing, I'm getting this or five, right? Or six or seven. But that's like you have to make sure that you're working on strategies that you can do three, four, and five times what you're doing. Like if,
Yeah.
if what you're doing is taking 40 hours to close four loans for the month, and it's taking 40 hours a week, right? Well, now to close eight loans, it'd be 80 hours a week,
Yep.
right? And that's not sustainable. We
That's
can do
right.
it for a short period of time, and so we've got to figure out ways to have whatever we're doing is a scalable process.
Yep.
And I tell you, I have found two areas and two
Hmm.
areas only that I think is scalable.
What's that?
So number one, marketing to past database,
Yep.
and number two, marketing to real estate agents.
Hmm.
Call those two with a little bit of effort,
Yep.
I get big results. Like I'll give you another example. So like let's say consumer direct.
Yep.
So most consumer directs convert at a very low ratio,
Very.
right? So like, let's be generous and say 1%,
Okay.
right? Which even the greats like um, Rocket Mortgage,
Yep.
they don't convert 1%, right? But they get thousands and thousands and thousands of leads, right?
Yep.
And and,
Yep.
and so they do get a big number. Of course, they got thousands and thousands and thousands of loan officers too. And so if I want to close one deal, I'd have to talk to 100 consumer directs.
Yeah.
It's not scalable, right?
That's
Because I
right.
could close one, I might could close two, but if I want to close four, now I'm talking to 400 people a month
Yep.
to close four. And the problem with that is about the time I get to number 89, I'm like, what do you want? Like I'm fried. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
And so I got to get like what's that old saying? The juice has to be worth the squeeze.
Yes. That's
You
right.
know, and so
Yep.
I found that like past database and real estate agents is really the name of the game. And how but but even in that, like when we want to scale, I think the word for that would be leverage. We've got to leverage other people or other technology or other systems
Yes.
that makes that a repeatable process, and we can scale. We just need help. That's like I get asked this all the time. I remember. So now I'm a branch manager now, right?
Oh yeah.
And we close a slow month 300 and something. A busy month 500-600 units, something like that. And but I remember when I got to like a personal production. Um, my best month ever was 72 units for a month, but that's not what we averaged. So we averaged, and this is top of my head,
Yep.
40, 50, something
Wow.
like that. Well, wait. So here's the funny thing. So people would always say, "Well, wait a minute, you got help."
Right.
Like, well, duh,
Yep.
dummy. Of course. That's like what was it last year? The number one selling car in the world was still the F-150
Yep.
pickup truck. So Ford F-150 in 2024 was the best selling car. Well, what do you want to guess that Henry Ford the fifth isn't the only guy out there with a welding iron? And what do you want to bet he has some help making trucks?
Yep.
It just makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And it opens up the ability to do more with less because when you don't have the systems or the people, the only lever that you have to pull is effort. But when you have systems and people, you pass this tipping point of 15 loans is actually easier to close than 6.
Now I
But
can tell
you got to get over that hump.
brother, I can tell you right now, the hardest hump is clearing the 1 to say 5 units.
Yeah.
That's the hard. Now going from 5 to 10 is infinitely easier than going from 1 to 5. 1 to 5 is a bear. It
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's doable, right?
Yep.
And listeners, as you're listening, you can totally, if that's where you are, you can totally do this, but
100%.
if you can going from 1 to 5 is hard. Going from 5 to 10 or 10 to 20 is actually, because then it's just systematizing and leveraging. So let's talk about the leveraging a little bit. So like on the calls, which is by far the method of closing loans for virtually every single top producer that I know.
Yep.
And let's define top producer. Let's say 10 units or more a month, right?
Yes.
The other day I was telling somebody, I go, well, I found this certain strategy hasn't, doesn't produce much. And one guy spoke up, which was, I'm not going to say what it was, right? Because for some people it works perhaps, but it wasn't making calls. And, this dude spoke up, said, dude, I'm crushing it doing this thing that you say doesn't work. And I said, well, define crushing. And he said, well, I closed 13 units last year. Right. And I'm not making fun of the guy, right? That means he's closing 1 a month. And you know what? For him, that might be an awesome number. He gets paid $3,000 per closing. You make 36 grand. Good for you, right? Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
Yep.
wrong with that. But in my world, that's not what we would call crushing it.
Yep.
When we have people, closing 30, 40, 50 loans a month, 1 a month is not, so you have to understand, you have to make sure you understand what scale means and what crushing it means and what top producing is. But anyway,
Yes.
so of the top producers, realtor referrals and past databases by far the number one thing.
Absolutely.
And then you go, all right, well, in those two things, what's the number one thing that moves the needle for past database and getting realtor referrals? And it's crystal clear what the answer to that is
Making calls.
it's making calls. And did I forget, Corey? I think everybody knows your voice. I'm talking with Chris Johnstone here
Oh.
today, and so I just thought we were just talking. I said, hey, let's click the record button. It's an interesting topic. So anyway, so making the phone call. So now we have to figure out how do you leverage phone calls
Mm.
when phone calls are required to be a top producer. And then you get to a certain level, or even if you're at a beginner level, like at 3 or 4 units a month, and you want to get to 10 that much faster,
Yep.
right? You put another person in the boat to start rowing for you.
Yep.
And if you got 2 paddles in the water, you're going to go faster than you have to have 1 paddle in the water, right? It just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
not like if I get somebody to paddle a boat, it's not that I'm going to get them to come paddle my boat and then me sit in the back doing nothing. I mean, that's okay, I guess. I'm not moving any faster.
That's right.
But if I hire somebody and she's paddling the boat and I'm paddling the boat, now we're going to get there faster. And if I get paid for how many times I can make that trip across the river, I'm going to hire somebody. If I get $1,000, or in our case, close a loan, I get $3,000 every time I cross the river, and I'm paying this person, X amount of dollars to help me row. As long as it's less than $3,000, per trip, that's just the biggest no-brainer ever.
That's right.
And what
Yep.
we're finding is that when somebody else makes the phone calls for us, the actual results of it is about the same if we make them ourselves. In fact, just being honest, Chris, I find sometimes they're actually higher, because if we hire somebody to make the calls for us, they're making the calls because that's their only job.
That's
And just
right.
being honest, if I'm relying on Carl to make all the calls, I'm just being, I get it. I block out my 2 hours. I'm making my phone calls, but I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect every day, right?
Yep.
Because I'm not.
Yep.
Things happen.
Me
I get
too.
doctor's appointments, and it's legitimate stuff, right? It's not fake stuff. Like, it's legitimate stuff. So
That
now
motorcycle's got to be ridden.
it's not going to ride itself.
It's
It's not going to ride
right.
itself. So but I think it's important that when we hire somebody to help us with our calls, the two calls they can make that I think moves the needle the most is realtor calling real estate agents,
Qualified
qualified
real
real
estate.
estate agents, and calling my past database,
Yes, 100%.
and having somebody else making those phone calls instead of myself. Frankly, the results are about the same. Again, I encourage as the listener here, you be making those calls too, though, and not just relying on somebody else. Because if you got two oars in the water, you're going to get there faster, right?
That's right.
That's what this is about. So now you actually have, which is what we were talking about before. I said, hey, let's click the record button. You guys actually have a service where you call loan officers past database, and you guys call real estate agents to set like coffee appointments, and I'm using
Yep.
air quotes on coffee appointments for the loan officers. Let's talk about that a little bit. So so the first thing is like when I'm hiring a caller to call on my behalf, does it have you found a difference on like do they need to be in the same town or the same city or the same side of the world, or like does none of that matter? Like what's been your experience?
So I've done a lot of this, and I find that they need to be North American based. Um, State specific is good, but not necessary because there is a certain twang in some places. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're in one of those places, it helps to have the same twang on the other end of the phone. Like it really does matter. But what I think is most important when somebody else is making the calls is they're calling the right people, but that you don't view it like a machine that you're trying to run at 100. It's important that these people take the time to have quality conversations and not just burn through contacts. Because typically, when you have somebody who's setting appointments, they'll come from a lead gen background or they'll come from a background where they're just trained to book as many appointments as possible. And like you say, Carl, every deal is worth $3,000 on average across. So it is worth the time and the effort to invest in building relationship and actually making a connection with the person on the other end of the phone and then booking appointment as long as they're open to it, right? And that comes down to call stars and making our calls. So having somebody who's North American based who understands that the goal isn't to book as many appointments as possible. The goal is to book a quality appointment with somebody who's had a great experience because this is our database and these are qualified agents. And yes, there's more of them than there is of us when it comes to opportunity, but we never want to waste an opportunity. So they got to
Yeah,
make sure that they've got the scripts and they're focused on relationships.
yeah. So when I got somebody calling on my behalf, North American, um, and again, we're talking generalities here,
Yes.
right? So just generalities. You might be in a location, say, you're in Texas or Colorado, and come to find out, you find somebody that's got a bit of a Hispanic accent, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might tie with your database better. So we're just talking in basic generalities here.
Yes.
So so if I've got somebody calling on my behalf, and let's talk about realtor appointments first.
Nice.
So we always know we know from that famous study that 67% of all purchase loans that close with the loan officer the real estate agent recommends.
Yep.
So if we're going to bank on something, let's bank on the vast majority. Let's bank on the paddling the boat downstream instead of trying to swim upstream like a salmon and getting eaten by a bear.
Yeah.
That's no good. Like, you never want to swim upstream. That just makes no sense whatsoever. So if we're going the easy way and going after real estate agents, and we're setting these, and I'm using air quotes here, coffee appointments. Maybe that appointment might be a Zoom, maybe it's a phone call or something like that. If I've got a caller calling on my behalf, like how many appointments am I looking to set per month?
So this is actually an interesting question because A, you've got to make sure that you can actually handle the follow up after the appointments. Everybody comes in and they want as many appointments as possible, But if you're not going to be able to nurture and maintain the relationship of the person that you've had the coffee appointment with, having too many appointments actually becomes a problem.
I see that.
Right. So you kind of want to hit somewhere in the range of, we found a sweet spot around like 15,
Okay.
because it's enough that you don't lose track of the conversations. It's enough that you're having quality conversations, but it's also enough that you get enough yeses where you're getting to that focus 40 number, and you're every month you're chunking enough that it's healthy scale, not too much.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen
So
that. I met with a guy not too long ago, a loan officer, and I think like I asked him, I said, so how many meetings have you had in the last like 30 days? And it was like, dude, it was a crazy number, like 56 or something like that. And I go, like, how does that follow up work? Oh, I haven't had time. I'm too busy. I'm too busy, shooting buffalo to go skin them.
that's
You know,
right.
horrible example. I'm not a hunter, by the way, and I could never shoot a buffalo. But you get the idea, right?
Hey there. Hey, if you're loving the tips so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down there and then tap the little bell so that you never miss out on more free, cool tips coming your way. Also, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment beneath there. Let me know what you think or tell me what you'd like to hear next.
An interesting point that you bring up, Carl, because that truly is the potential. You
Yeah,
can, when you have a system and you have people, there is enough opportunity in the market right now
that it's
that
rotting on the ground.
something like that is totally possible.
Yeah,
And I love, so Sarah Cox, who is just absolutely amazing, big part of the Breakfast Club.
yeah.
She's incredible. So we did a podcast together, and she said to me, Chris, what I've done in my business is I've actually upped it from 8 deals in the last year to, I think she said 10 or 11 or 12 deals,
So
because
her agents have to be doing not eight buyer sides in the last 12 months, but like 12 deals in the last 12 months. So
that's
a
right.
more qualified agent.
Because she found the opportunity was so great.
There's so many.
Why not focus
Yeah.
on more,
Yeah.
right?
If you're going to go fishing, let's stay away from the clams and let's go after a tuna,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Because I
that's
get a
right.
clam, I got a snack.
Yeah,
If I catch a tuna, I'm going to feed my family for a while.
that's
So
right.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Hey, so if I have a caller and they're setting me up 15 appointments with well qualified agents per month, um, what do we find about like half of those show up? Like what's kind of I mean, it's just talking honest numbers here, right?
Yep.
So what's our show up rate? Somewhere in that neighborhood, a little less than half, a little more than half. Like, what are you finding?
Little more than half.
No
And
kidding.
yeah. So, and again, slowing down, taking the time, and really talking to a qualified agent that wants to meet, those appointments show up much greater. So I would rather have less appointments and a higher show up rate
Yeah.
than the other way around. But so we tend to definitely see more than half. The feedback that we get is between like 70%,
Wow.
somewhere in and around that
That's
number.
actually higher than I would have thought, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
that's pretty high. So all right. So let's just crunch some numbers here. So let's say my caller sets 15 appointments.
Okay.
You know what? Let's be pessimistic.
Yes, of
Let's
course.
say seven show up. That's less than half.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
say. So seven shows up. So we've seen um, overall a general number that's kind of our accepted norm that when we meet with an agent, 16% start referring to us, which might sound like a low number to people that are listening to this. But if you think about it, every time we get an agent to refer, and keep in mind, these are the qualified agents. These are the agents that
Yes.
have deals, right? Let's imagine that agent sends you a deal a month,
Yep.
right? Because again, these are the well qualified agent. Qualified 8 buyer sides or more. I mean, they're in the top 4% in the nation, right? So when I set an appointment with them, these people have leads. And by the way, their number one problem is having somebody help them follow up on the leads. It's a whole different conversation. These people don't need leads. They need help following up on the leads that they already have, right? So
That's right.
it's a different animal. So let's say I'm getting one closing per month from that person. That means that if I add, and let's say $3,000 per closing,
Yep.
that means that one agent, if I do 3,000 times 12 months, like a deal a month, 3,000 times 12, that means that agent's worth $36,000. Let's be pessimistic and round down $30,000.
Yep.
Now let's be real pessimistic, $20,000. Let's say we suck,
Mm.
$20,000. So every time I add an agent, it's $20,000. So if I want $100,000 for the $100,000 raise for the year, I only need 5 of them.
Yeah.
And so when we say 16%, that might sound like a low number until you go, no, each one's worth, and again, being what I think would be, there's no guarantees in this stuff, of course, right? I'm just giving my own personal experience. 20,000 would be a low, my estimation, low normal, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so if I set an appointment with 15, 7, most don't show.
Most
Being
don't
pessimistic. Most don't show. That leaves me with 7. 86% that I meet with go, Carl, you're not for me. Not my guy. 87%, right? Or 84%. 84% say, Carl's not for me. And only 16%. So most say no. Not most. A vast majority say no. And I get a 16% yes ratio, which is my own personal number.
Yep.
16%. Well, 16% of 7, right? I met with 7 this month, is 1.2. So let's just say 1.
Yep.
All right. Well, when I have somebody calling on my behalf, I've got 1 new agent per month. That 1, again, being pessimistic, 20 grand.
Yep.
All right. Well, next month I get another one. And so now it's 40 grand.
Yeah.
And then the next month, I don't get 5 or 6. I get 1.
Yep.
And that's another 20 grand. Well, if we do that, times 12, right? 20 grand times 12 is what, 240?
Yep.
So I've given myself a $240,000 raise. That's leverage. And that's on top of what I'm doing on my calls. That's what my caller's doing. So then I put some of that 240 grand in my pocket. I take some of that money to pay for my caller. And I take some of that money to go have somebody help me pre-approve more of these leads.
Yes.
So now when they're pre-approving, right, I can be selling more deals.
Yep.
And that's where it talks about the more you close, the less you work because you can afford to have help.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game. That's like, you look at back when he was alive, if you ask Steve Jobs, hey, once you guys started cranking, how many laptops did you build? Well, 0.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because he had other people building while he sold.
Yep.
That's how you become, like in his case, a billionaire,
Yep.
So clearly when you crunch in the numbers of, and again, nobody knows what the actual numbers are. I'm just giving you my past experience. And as you're listening to this, yours might be different. Frankly, it's likely to be different, maybe more, maybe less. Wouldn't take much to beat 16%. I can tell you that. And,
but in that number is also the ones that you say no to as well, right? Because
and that's a good point. But let me tell you the piece that we left out here. That's another big piece. So now, like, here I am 6 months in, and I've got 6 agents now. So I've got 6 deals this month from those 6. Well, on those 6 deals, I probably got 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, but certainly 3 or 4 listing agents that I'm working with.
Yes.
On the listing, they're the listing agent on this deal. And now I always think of myself like on the listing agent, I'm the guy at the mall holding out a little tin pan of chicken teriyaki, with little toothpicks in it.
Yeah.
And people walk, hey, you want to try some of my chicken teriyaki? Well, yeah, I think I'll try some of that. And they take it and they go, dang, that's some good chicken teriyaki. Dang, that's some good loan running you're doing there, Carl. Dang, that's some good follow-up that you're doing. Dang, that's some good updating that you're doing. Dang, you guys closed on time. You kept me updated with what was going on. That was some killer chicken teriyaki you got there.
Yep.
Awesome. You want some more? Well, you know what? I think I do. So not only do you get the deals from the buyer's agent that the caller set you up for is the compounding effect that now we got these listing agents that when we market to them after they've had your awesome chicken teriyaki, are you going to get all of those? No. Are you going to get some of them? Well, assuming you actually follow up with them and ask,
Yep.
yeah, you are. And so a lot of this has a multiplying effect to it. And then the other thing is with every closed loan, well, we have a past happy client.
Yep.
And we follow up with them and ask them, hey, it was an honor helping you. Do you have any friends, family, coworkers that are looking to buy, sell, refinance? Can I count on them to give me a call? They're going to send us a referral. So it's all this leveraging and it's all these added, it's like the proverbial snowball effect, So it's these could be some really, really, really big numbers,
Absolutely. And the thing that I love about it is that it's in addition to, because Carl, everything that you just listed there in the daily success plan, that is following the daily success plan, showing up on call stars, making your calls, you doing that activity while somebody else fills your calendar with the new qualified opportunities. That's really where the compounding happens, because again, overwhelm is something that you need to guard against. So when you've got that consistent drip coming in the front and you're focused on the closing on time and the making sure that you're following up the agents, following up, just ask, all those wonderful things, you keep the motor running and you keep gas in the engine to keep the whole thing moving forward. And that's really what drives the momentum forward as well.
Dude, did you see that thing that Owen posted the other day where it showed the expected loan volume for 2025? I think it's going to be like the 5th best year ever.
Really?
Like it was big. Well, wait, that's not the exciting part. And look, I always struggle with this. I'm not happy that this happened, but he also showed how many loan officers are left. And frankly, from what we had, 4 years ago to what we have now, it's like a third. Like it was low. And so here we are, we're getting ready to have like a top year with a third of the loan officers. Boy, it's going to be a good year.
Yes, sir.
And if you're looking to really ramp things up and take advantage of the year, like this is the year of market share.
Yeah.
This is the year that you gather market share because the loan officers that some of those real estate agents were using, they're gone. They're not here.
Yep.
They're gone. And so growing your market share, this can be a really good thing. Hey, I see we're top of, hey, if top of the hour here, if somebody wants to get more information about the callers or talk to somebody in your team, or do they just go right to a website and click a button, or do they talk to somebody? What's the best way to do this?
Yeah. So loappointments.com. loappointments.com.
With an S on appointments.
With an S on appointments, it'll take them to a calendar page. You can pick a time that works best for you and book a call. And we actually have our concierge professionals that are actually on the other end of that calendar. So you can actually talk to somebody who's been in that position or who does that position of professional appointment setting. So you can ask questions, like they can have them on the call with you. And it's just a great way for you to ask questions, learn about it, and find out if it might be an opportunity.
Yeah, I like this. Hey, on your when you guys do the calling for me, and this is a real question, I don't know the answer to this. Do I give you a list to call, or do y'all provide the list of the qualified agents in my area, or how does that work?
So if it's database calls and we're calling a past database, you provide the list.
Of course, because it's my past database here. Call my past database, looking for opportunities to refinance, or do they have a friend that's looking to buy, sell, or refinance, right?
Yep. Chris came into the office this morning. He asked me to give you a call, say thank you very much for the business, and then just asking on the end of it.
I like that. Which by the way, making that phone call that we all know we should be making, and that virtually none of us actually are, right? It's just and it's okay, right? It's okay. It's not your fault. You've been busy. Anyway, so how about on the real estate agents? When you call these qualified real estate agents, do I provide the list? Do you provide it for me? How does that work?
So we coach new loan officers that come to us that they have a list of warm referral partners, typically that they've fallen out of touch with. So who are the agents that you've done business with in the past that you just haven't reached out to lately, right? And we get some really good lists that way. And it's just low hanging fruit. They already know your name, know you, like you, trust you. So we like to start with that list. And then some people will come to us with a qualified agent list, or we provide the qualified agent list because everybody that comes in on the program gets the loan officer CRM. So they get 300 qualified agents a month.
Each month.
Each month. Yep.
And so this month I get 300. Next month I get a new 300. So now I got a total of 600. Next month a new 300. Now I got 900. So like by the fourth month I got well over 1,000, which is more than enough to be calling on. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then the appointment setter is actually working the CRM. So they're using the power dialer and it's doing the follow-up. And then when somebody follows up, it's the appointment setter that's doing the follow-up and working the CRM in order to book the appointments.
And with the main purpose of putting live appointments on my calendar.
Yep.
I like that. Well, the numbers certainly make it seem like it's a worthwhile, certainly to at least at the very least to look into. And I want everybody to picture having somebody else helping you row the boat. That's how it works. By the way, did you? I saw this thing. Where was that at? I saw this thing on TV. I think it was MythBusters. And the question was, can a professional rowing team, like the Harvard rowing team, right? What they call it, sculling.
Yes.
So with the Harvard rowing team, can they pull a skier?
Oh, no way.
Yeah. What do you want to guess? Could they pull a skier?
I don't think so.
They could.
No way. Really?
They could. They sure did. They pulled a guy skiing. They sure did. He wasn't going fast. But he was skiing.
But was he on like a sheet of plywood?
No. Just regular ski. It wasn't a slalom ski. It was two skis.
Okay.
They literally were pulling, unless it was a trick boat that had an engine on it. But it was MythBusters, if I remember right. So my guess is they were on the up and up. So anyway, what was that website again?
LOappointments.com with an S.
Yeah. So when you're ready to operate your business like a ski boat and you want some real movement, instead of swimming like a turtle, LOappointments.com. LOappointments.com. So cool, man. Hey, thanks, Chris.
Hey, thanks for the conversation, Carl. It's great to be here.
Always a pleasure. Hey, so the word of the year, leverage.
Yes.
Leverage and market share. Leverage and market share. Huge opportunities. So make sure you're doing things, whether it's this or something else, do something. Leverage, market share. I want you to just kind of repeat those two words over and over, and then do what you think is the best in your interest to accomplish those two things. Leverage, market share. So anyway, cool. All right. Hey, thanks for listening. We always appreciate it. You think a loan officer would benefit from this? We appreciate you forwarding it. Thanks for all those reviews. We'll see you on the inside at LOappointments.com, and we'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.